morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to NerdTube. And it's time to talk about Dark Side of the Ring. And it's Bash at the Beach time, baby. And in my opinion, so far, probably the best episode of a very disappointing season of Dark Side of the Ring. Um, I think what made this episode so good initially is that there was a lot of focus on various things, the drama of it all. It wasn't another Fall from Grace episode that we've been getting a lot recently. We were discussing last week about Bam Bam Bigelow, how that's probably one of the most unworthy episodes of Dark Side of the Ring on a particular character. Yes, he did drugs, but other than that, there was nothing really wrong with him. Like he wasn't somebody who fell off the rails. He wasn't a bad person. He seemed to be quite a reliable person, a good father. His children loved him. All of this sort of stuff. The people in the locker room loved him. He was a very valiant person. And yes, they somehow made a Dark Side of the Ring episode on him, but don't want to stray too much on that. Back to this particular episode, a lot of things came from this episode. One of the most funniest episodes as well, because you could laugh at this. Not since the Collision and Career episode have I had an opportunity to laugh at so many things. Various villains in this world. There's a whole bunch of people that wrestling fans are notorious on who don't really like, whether it be the top tier guy himself, Hulk Hogan, and the various backstage hands and promoters like Eric Bischoff, Dave Meltzer, and of course Vince Russo, and some of the pawns as well who got played in this, like Double J himself. Excellent episode, lots to talk about. How did you feel about this episode, Diose?
Oh, yo, okay. This was
by the way, welcome.
Yep.
Sorry,
Yep.
Welcome, Diose. I forgot to welcome you, mate. Good to have you.
It's all good. Yeah, thank you. Like I said in the very beginning, I'm like, this is the episode I was looking forward to the most, and it didn't disappoint me at all. But I do have some complaints. Complaint number one, they totally missed out on the master of bullshit being a talking head. Hulk Hogan should have been a talking head. Just to hear him spew his bullshit, that would have made this episode that much funnier. But overall, I really enjoyed it. It was a case of he said. Russo was being a fucking hypocrite throughout the episode. Bischoff with his bullshit that he likes to spew. It's just, oh man, Bash at the Beach 2000. For those of you that weren't around during that time, you guys truly missed out on some fuckery and some craziness.
Yeah. And welcome, Wrestling Lowdown. If you want to join us, by the way, mate, let us know. We've got some space today. And Bend Over, who's here. Yeah, we all do, mate. We need to come up with a little bit some new material, though. I recommend. Mm-hmm. Before we got into the meat of this particular episode, I apologize about my birds making some noise. Before we got into the meat of this episode, we've got a little bit of a history lesson for a start. Regarding this particular era. The domination of the WWF before WCW started coming into play, changing from NWA obviously to WCW.
Mm-hmm.
The acquisition of Hulk Hogan into WCW, making them into a bigger draw, so to speak, and Eric Bischoff initially joining in, coming up with his whole thing was whatever got the WWE popular, I would do the opposite.
Yep.
Now, Eric Bischoff did a lot of things. I'll tell you the one thing that always pissed me off about Eric Bischoff. Well, one thing he did that I did not like was that entrance ramp, which was in line with the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I hated that. It was one of the stupidest things you could have done.
Yeah, where it's like you got everything leveled. I don't like how you had the set.
Yeah,
how it's all leveled up.
Yeah, you need to have the wrestlers interact with the fans as they're coming into the ring, whether they be heel or face. You know what I mean? And I've never liked that. That was one of the most stupidest things he's ever did. And that was pure Eric Bischoff. But nevertheless, he came up with all these new ideas. He was taking a lot of the old guys from WWE and he was elevating their programming. But this is the thing. We kind of got an idea of how the birth of the Attitude Era came along as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, what this show was showing us, it was probably Vince Russo who helped create that,
Yeah,
from what I saw.
Yeah, because Vince Russo was the guy that told Vince, like, okay, yo, this cartoony shit, It worked for the 80s. It worked for the early 90s. It's not working now. You got to get rid of like the neon colors and the bubble gum and the pop, and you got to start having like Jerry Springer meets Howard Stern, and that's what the WWF needs to be. And it eventually became that. And yeah, but to counter that point, Bischoff's probably biggest idea was the NWO. And yeah, so that's how the war kind of started. Was Vince had
Yeah, for
to
sure.
do what he had to do, and the NWO came about and kicked their ass for 83 weeks. I call it 2 years.
Yeah, and yeah, but once I mean the NWO storyline, I mean just initially the Outsiders, the storyline of that of Hall and Nash coming in. I mean, you just saw them on WWE television like a week ago,
Yep.
and now they're in WCW, and that sort of first elements of reality TV and stuff like that. It was fascinating, and then for the greatest heel turn of all time
Mm-hmm.
to see Hulk Hogan turn heel, which is I've always given credit to WCW for doing this because the WWE never had the balls to do that.
Nope.
They never like turning their top baby faces.
And when
I
they
mean,
did
they've
it,
done
it
it.
didn't.
Yeah,
And when they did
yeah.
it, it didn't fucking work. When they did that with Stone Cold.
It didn't work with Stone Cold. Luckily for them, they kind of went with the like they went with how people were feeling regarding The Rock when he was coming in and out of the WWE, and so they played with that. But they couldn't wait to turn Hogan face again the moment he came back into the WWE, and on several occasions people booing the shit out of John Cena, and they refused to turn him heel. They almost did the same thing with Roman Reigns, but they smartened up and they made sure that they did turn him heel, and he's
Yep.
probably it's the best thing they've ever done. Like not since probably Triple H to a degree has the face of the company been a heel, and they done it the right way. But the Triple H will always be stained with nepotism, unfortunately. No
Yep.
matter how people look at his career, at least with Roman Reigns, you can tell that this was the right move and it's working beautifully. So, but yeah, I don't want to go too much on that. But yeah, with the Outsiders and then obviously the NWO being born once Hulk Hogan joined them, it was fascinating TV. You couldn't keep your eyes off it. And Eric Bischoff, he was Hulk Hogan's right hand man. He was his wise man, so
Yep.
to speak. And they did a lot of stuff together. They gave him creative control. And one of the best things about this episode of Bash at the Beach is something that we've all been clamoring for, is that Hulk Hogan episode. And probably this is probably the closest thing we got to a Hulk Hogan episode. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
so. Because but like I said, my biggest complaint,
Hello.
they needed to have Hogan as a talking head just to hear him spew his bullshit. I don't know if he still is signed with WWE, come to think of it. I know he's made appearances in recent years, but I have no idea if they'd be able to
and
get
plus,
Hogan.
I don't think personally Hogan would have been on a show like this. It's
Yeah, it would have been funny, but I knew it wouldn't have
yeah.
happened. Yeah.
Hogan is a bit of like, this is beneath him type thing. That's why I can't see him. Welcome Daniel Vance to the stream. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that time. Yep.
Hogan was such a ponce in the black outfit. Yeah, he was. Yeah, for sure. So one of the things I actually never saw Bash at the Beach. I heard about it and all of that. I never saw that particular pay-per-view. But one of the things I genuinely thought was that this pay-per-view was going to be like some of the previous episodes of Dark Side of the Ring, where there was a whole bunch of shenanigans going on throughout the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Like, when like the plane ride from hell, there's a whole bunch of shenanigans going on the plane ride from hell.
Mm-hmm.
The collision in Korea, there's a whole bunch of shenanigans going before it and during it and after it. And I thought that was the same here, but the reality is that the pay-per-view was okay, but it was more to do with
This
the main
incident.
event.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is what made it stand out. Plus, obviously, it's called Bash at the Beach. I thought it would be outdoors, like some of the previous ones, but no, it was an indoor arena.
Mm-hmm.
All right, fair enough. So it looks kind of like everything else, really, very generic and all of that. But this is what fascinated me was like you got all these different people, and sometimes you got too many crazies in the room trying to collaborate, coming up with new ideas. It can spoil things. First of all, Vince Russo, he's now left the WWE because he's burnt out. They
Yeah.
brought out a second show in SmackDown. He can't do it. Yes, we can see you, by the way.
Yep. And here's what's funny
Welcome,
as
Jim. Yeah.
hell. The fact that he was like, Russo started off with like, oh, I hate wrestling and wrestling fans, and then by the end he completely fucking flips his switch by talking about like, oh, it's just a fucking job. And I'm like, Vince Russo, you're full of shit. That was the one thing established throughout this episode. I always knew that Russo was full of shit and still is.
He's a strange character, Russo, because what do you want to be? Do you want to be a booker?
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to be the main event? Because sometimes these guys, to a degree, Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon and other people, Paul Heyman to a degree, they sometimes end up being in front of the camera more than they should do. And Vince Russo actually ended up being in some fucking matches as well, which was also really stupid. But sometimes he got a bit carried away in what his role should be. We never really got to see that too much, to tell you the truth. I remember the infamous match where he got figure forward for like forever until that fucking blood got poured on him.
Yeah, and then it completely fucking missed.
Yeah. All this blood being poured into the ring, bullshit. So stupid. But there were, but they were in this particular time. They were intertwining the real life storyline of the old guard versus the new guard, and Eric Bischoff had been rehired by Turner to work alongside Vince Russo, and this is where you can't have two leaders now. This is where you have too many cooks. You got conflicting ideas. Now Eric Bischoff was always going to be behind Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
because as far as he's concerned, that's where the money's at.
Yeah, there's no debate about that. There's no debate about that. Yeah, Bischoff, he was staying loyal to Hogan and crew. That's just how it was. Russo was an outsider coming in, and there was no way it was going to work. When you got one guy from one company coming in, and then they're like, all right, well, you two need to make this thing work. There's no way, because you got two different visions. You cannot achieve to be successful and strive for the same goal if you have a different vision. There's no way. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's amazing how different they are. How much of a role did Dave Meltzer play in all of this?
Meltzer, people used to really be into him. I don't know if people still are. I'm one of those people that don't really subscribe to Meltzer and his craziness and his like star ratings and all that stuff. So I'm one of those that don't really care for Dave Meltzer all that much, to be honest. But he was just like talking like, oh, this is what the ratings were and this kind of thing. And, this is what was going on in WCW at the time. It was that kind of thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So with the Bash at the Beach pay-per-view coming up, they wanted to see a changing of the guard. Now, there was kind of a changing of the guard, even though he was a veteran in his own right. Jeff Jarrett was the champion.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Jeff Jarrett, by the way. I think he gets a bit of a bum deal sometimes. I'm glad he's no longer that sort of like, he's not doing that sort of like honky tonk, no, not honky tonk man, but that sort of like that
country singer guy.
Yeah, that Garth Brooks type sort of shit.
Yeah,
I mean that gimmick, because I think he's got to. I like him when he's being not a gimmick and he's just being a bit more straight laced. He's a lot better like that.
Yeah,
and I feel sorry for him, because in this episode you could tell he was the guy who was in the middle.
Yeah, he was a scapegoat. There was no way of getting out of it.
And also, by the way, Shane, one person out of all the people going about how you like to hear from Hulk Hogan, I would love to have heard from Booker T in this.
Yeah, Booker T. Yeah, if he wasn't under contract, he would have been the guy to go get.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to say, hey man, what was your take on when all this went down?
Hello, phony B2 maniacs. Welcome to the stream.
Hello.
Yeah. Why was Lance Storm? He was integral to all of that. I think they needed somebody else as well.
They needed a talking head. They needed a guy that was They needed a guy that was there as a talent at the time, just to give his perspective.
He mentioned, and I'm glad you brought up Lance Storm. He mentioned that once Russo came in, one of the things he had, one of his ideas was to make Lance Storm the illegitimate son or some shit like that of Eric Bischoff. And even though
how
they're
the
only
hell
10
is
years
that going to
apart.
work? We're only 10 years apart. How would they believe that he's... And then the best highlight of the episode was Lance Storm's like cornet face when he had that like look on his face, like, and I was like, that was the highlight of the whole episode right there. If they would have ended it right there, that would have been gold. But
exactly, and it's funny in a way because with somebody loyal and to a degree almost lackey like in Eric Bischoff as far as Hulk Hogan is concerned, when Eric Bischoff wasn't around, Vince Russo coming in, you could tell that, oh, I'm not gonna like this.
yep.
Hogan, you ain't gonna work for me, brother.
Yeah, that's not gonna work for me, brother.
Yeah, and
I do call bullshit on Hogan using it. He says he never used his creative control clause. I'm like, bullshit. I don't believe that he says that. Like, he's like, oh, I never used it up until this match with Jeff Jarrett. Bullshit.
Yeah.
There are guys there's guys you refuse to put over, but go ahead.
I wanted them to go on more on pay-per-views like December to Dismember, and the December that's the WWE ECW pay-per-view. That's correct.
Yes.
That fell apart big time. I didn't think it was that bad personally, but I think what it was is they had very little build up, so they didn't really promote him. And Hell in a Cell, well, which Hell in a Cell in particular?
Which one are you talking about?
Because if you're talking about the one where Undertaker throws Foley, we don't need that in Dark Side.
Yeah, because they've done that.
I've heard Foley talk about it in detail alongside Undertaker.
Which happened like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, they talked about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not really Dark Side material, to tell you the truth, because it's just it's just a one-off match. I mean, usually there's got to be more to sometimes like this pay-per-view Bash at the Beach. There's got to be more to it than just the pay-per-view itself. It's all the build up to the pay-per-view and and the falling out after it and stuff like that and during it.
So, like they've already done like Survivor Series 97, which was Montreal. They've already done Bash at the Beach 2000, and you gotta think there could be some other pay-per-views they could do, but there's not that many of them. Not many of them had that like controversial comedy bullshit that happened.
Yeah,
like with Hogan and Russo.
Yeah, I mean they've already done the pay-per-view, which unfortunately Owen Hart died.
Yeah, they're done Over the Edge 99.
And sometimes when it comes to certain pay-per-views, it's usually like this one, a particular incident.
Yeah.
Than the entire pay-per-view itself.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever do I don't think they'll ever do a Dark Side where it's an entire pay-per-view because nothing like that would ever happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be something significant within the pay-per-view, and prior to that, like in this one, they were talking about who they wanted to put over, and that was Booker T.
Yep.
And Booker T was the man that they wanted to put over. They were talking about putting Booker T over. That was the common thing, but at the same time, they wanted to elevate Jeff Jarrett just a little bit more prior to giving the belt to Booker T. And what way to elevate Jeff Jarrett than to make him beat Hulk Hogan?
Yeah.
And this is where things get quite political. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think, with Bischoff and Hogan, there was no way Russo was going to come out on top. Like, he even said, like, I made Hogan like God, but he doesn't leave with the belt. Like, there's no way Hogan can leave with the belt. And Hogan said, you know what? I ain't doing it. That's not going to work for me, brother. And all day long, I think even up to curtain time, they were arguing over this.
I don't know sometimes how it's a very hard thing to pull off, to make somebody look credible after a loss.
Yeah.
Like when Brock Lesnar came back after his long hiatus, being a UFC fighter and all of that, and he finally came back, and then he had this pay-per-view match against John Cena where he fucked him up.
Yep. And Cena barely won that match. Yeah.
And Cena ended up winning that match. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell? Like Like, it doesn't matter what you say about Brock Lesnar. You know, he lost.
Yeah, he lost to John
he,
Cena, and I know
he
people
lost
are
to
gonna.
John Cena on his
Yep,
debut match. You know,
yep. And I know
yeah.
people are gonna say like, "Oh, it's doing business." It's the old school way of seeing if Lesnar wanted to do business. I'm like, if you wanted to have Lesnar do business, you would have put him up in there against like a mid card guy like Cody Rhodes at the time or something. Then it would have been like, "Oh, okay, he's willing to do business." Not on your first match back to John Cena, in my
And
opinion.
even then, John Cena could have afforded to lose that match,
Mm-hmm.
and then you could have had him maybe come back in a following match or whatever. But for Brock Lesnar to beat the living fuck out of him and then lose, it for me, it killed his momentum. Which is why he needed something like to defeat the streak. It
Yep.
really took, honestly, that in a way elevated him even more than people realize if you look back at it now. Yeah, because beating Triple H and shit like that was fucking bullshit. He's a part timer.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So anyway, back to this. So obviously, there was this plan that laid out what Vince Russo mentioned, and he believes that Hulk Hogan's going. Was Hulk Hogan going to still do the job even though he's beating the shit out of everyone? I don't get it. I mean, is that what's happening here? Or like,
I guess. I mean, I think it was a thing of like Hogan was going to go through basically almost everybody and then lose to Jarrett. I'm like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Comment here. They should have played it off as kayfabe story, exposed it all fake, only to go right back into kayfabe as if it's all real and emotional after the event. Well, there are many things in this.
Russo kind of tried that. He kind of tried that with that scathing shoot promo thing, where he was all like, "Yeah, all day long I'm backstage playing politics with Hogan and yada yada yada," and I'm like, "Yeah, motherfucker, well you broke kayfabe," and it got so bad that fucking Hogan and Bischoff sued Russo for his terrible booking, and I thought that was hysterical.
Yeah, well, you can't really get away with that, unfortunately. And on top of that, you could tell things are not going according to plan when the fucking commentators are not in on it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, with the commentators are totally dumbfounded. They're going, "Well, this is not what we expected, folks, at production." And like, what the hell
we
are
have
they
to
talking about?
we have to deviate from the script. Gee, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So, so when they're saying stuff like that, you could tell something else is going on. But then you can kind of see how things when things are like explained to you in this particular episode, it all makes sense now because Jeff Jarrett, after going back to Hogan, after he decides not to go ahead with what's been planned, I don't know what he then decides to do. By the way, that was never really explained what the alternative plan was as far as Hogan's concerned. But Vince Russo's really fucking pissed.
Oh no, I know what it was.
Pissed.
It was supposed to be the thing of what happens is Booker T like wins the belt because Bischoff did say this. The plan was to have Hogan come back at Halloween Havoc that year and then be like, "Ha, I'm the real world champion," and then do all that bullshit. But you know what happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Vince Russo does tell Jeff Jarrett, okay, do a finger poker Doom 2.0. Don't even get poked.
Yep.
Just lie down. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just lay fucking down.
Yeah, he laid still as a bird. Hogan gets on the mic, and then he's like, "Is this your deal, Russo? That's why WCW's in the damn shape it's in because of bullshit like this." And then he just leaves, and that's it. That's the last time we ever saw Hulk Hogan.
I love seeing Hogan dumbfounded here because, I remember when he fought Shawn Michaels.
And Shawn sold his ass off. He oversold everything. I thought it was like the clothesline over the top, and then he goes and does the whiff. And I'm just like, that is some of the funniest shit to this day. It's one of the greatest matches of all time. Greatest in terms of comedy, mind you.
Yeah, exactly. I still, there's some matches I like to go back to.
Yep.
That's one of them. Obviously, Eddie Guerrero versus Lesnar, No Way Out. I like to go back to.
Yep.
And another match, which in my opinion is the greatest SummerSlam match of all time, the greater ladder match of all time, and one of the greatest stipulation matches of all time, is Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero.
The custody of Dominic. And speaking of, Here's the latest thing on WWE with Dominic Mysterio. This is what's making him a Hall of Famer. He said, like, do you think you'll ever reconcile with your dad? And then he's like, well, I can't do that now because my real dad is gone. Rest in peace, Eddie. And I'm like, I fucking love this kid. Like, I just love that he stays in character. I don't watch WWE as much anymore, but like whenever I see Dominic Mysterio, I'm like, this dude is the man. That's just that's all I know.
Sheamus's workout videos on YouTube.
Yeah,
you seen that?
Yep.
And
he did the 15-minute yard workout, the prison workout.
Yeah, and Dominic just stayed in total character.
Yep.
Yeah, throughout that whole bloody thing.
Yeah.
You would have thought, I mean, you can tell he's young and he's just getting into it because everybody else they're dying to break character and just be themselves.
He's just full bore, and I'm like, that's why I love him.
Yeah,
I love him so much. He's just so great.
Yeah, he's really good. It's one of the best things he's ever done. Okay, so back to this particular pay-per-view, and yes, cousin Cheetah, we are on the Skeleton Cruise. Thank you, Jose, for joining me. I don't know if I could have done this on my own, to tell you the truth.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So finally, as I said, Jeff Jarrett comes in and he just lays down, and then Hulk Hogan is totally dumbfounded. Vince Russo is walking around ringside and stuff like that. It's really fascinating when you see the reality of wrestling breaking into the business live on camera, like with the Montreal screw job and stuff like that. Like when you see the real, or even the Royal Rumble between Batista and Cena.
Yeah, when Vince went out there and tore both his quads.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the fuck do we do?
He's just sitting on his ass like that. And you could see how pissed off he was. But my God, they lucked out because the way they both landed outside the ring that time. Yep. Like, I mean, Jesus
it's
Christ.
It's a once in a lifetime thing we'll never see again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it felt like a work the whole. I mean, it felt like a work the whole bloody time.
Yep.
And
it was still one of the greatest things that ever happened. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best things that ever fucking happened. And it's kind of simple, really. Just restart the fucking Rumble. I mean, just return to it. It's not that difficult.
This guy won. No, this guy won. All Vince had to do, he didn't even have to go to the ring. He just had to grab a mic and go restart the match, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right. So,
Hogan calls in. So where we are is Hogan calls in the next day to the Bubba the Love Sponge show, and he's talking all sorts of shit. He's like, man, I can't believe this.
But
before the main event. Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention how, like, even before, I've kind of gone past this, but I want to go back to this. Like, when it came to Jeff Jarrett, how long it took him to come out to the ring, and they were constantly looping his music. And it makes sense now when he talks about it. He was backstage trying to figure out whether he should come out to the ring or not in the first place, because his mind was going all over the place, because he would be basically a pawn in all of this. And if anybody's going to suffer the most, it'll probably be him. So that was interesting, and it made sense why it took him so long. And then when he did come out, he did the job. He did what he was told to do, and then he went backstage and I like the sort of like the Vice's sort of like images of Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff in their plane, fucking cracking their glasses together and drinking and all that sort of shit and high-fiving and saying they got this and all of that. Absolutely brilliant. But just before we get onto that radio call, Daniel Vance says, I'm just trying to pass the time until BG3 launch. Minute by minute, I die a bit more from the weight. BG3? BG3. What the hell is BG3? You got to explain what BG is. And the Wrestling Lowdown says, Shane McMahon to...
Oh, yeah, when he tore his fucking quad, earlier this year against The Miz. Yeah, Shane tore his quad.
Oh, yeah, the improvisation by Snoop. By Snoop, which was fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, like Shane, you see, you're too old, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's time to retire, dude.
He's over 50 now, isn't he? You know what I mean? Yeah, like you shouldn't be, and you're not a full timer. No wonder your fucking quads fucking ripped.
Yep.
You know, you can't be doing coast to coast anymore and shit like that. Oh, Boulder Gate 3. I had no idea what the hell that is.
Yeah. Mm.
I have no idea. But
You youngins in your video games.
yeah. So Hulk
So
Hogan then
Russo.
rings into
Yep.
ring
So
no, Hogan rings in,
oh no.
doesn't
Okay.
he?
So Russo does the scathing shoot promo, and he calls Hogan a piece of shit, and
Called him a bold bastard.
yeah, bald bastard, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And then, okay, the main event happens. Booker T wins. It is what it is. And then the next day, this is where the hilarity picks up. Hogan calls into the Bubba the Love Sponge show, and he's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm not happy with this place. Fuck this job. I'm leaving. And this is where it picks up to one or the other. I think Hogan sues Russo. And then fast forward, the court case is ongoing, and it's like, how the fuck did you even file this like lawsuit? You're talking about a wrestling character, and the judge just threw it out of court. I thought that was hilarious.
It's fascinating too because his real name is Terry Bollea.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he responds to Hulk Hogan just as well and just as easily. He's been Hulk Hogan for more than half of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so he's just as much Hulk Hogan as he is Terry Bollea, but that will never be his real name.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're referring to him as Hogan, you're referring to the character, the on-screen personality.
Yeah.
And so he was always going to lose that court case.
And
I found it.
Go ahead.
I found it very interesting when Bishop was giving us an analysis on Hulk Hogan. Like when he's angry, he's very quiet.
Yeah,
and I can get that. I get that. I totally get that because he's probably pondering and he's thinking and stuff like that. Because his whole performance is something mean, Gene, and he's always like fucking screaming and showing off his part. That's the character. That's the performance. Yeah. But the reality is that
when he talks, he's like,
not playing,
when he's talking, he's like, yeah, brother, I got to do what I got to do, brother. Like he gets that real low, gravely voice. Yeah. When he's really
but when he's mad though, and he's pondering and he's angry and he's quiet, you know what I mean, and he's thinking like, what do I do? Because he's a very methodical person. You don't get all the way to the top like he does without obviously playing the game of chess of wrestling, which is what he's done. There's only a handful of places at the top, and for a big portion of his career, he was the only person at the top, even though other people might have taken the spotlight for a brief period, whether it be Macho Man, whether it be Ultimate Warrior, or even Sergeant Slaughter at one point. He always just took it back and became the main man.
It was always going to be the Hulk Hogan show. That's just how it was.
Yeah, Sid Justice came in. Nah, it ain't going to work for me, brother. Yokozuna gets the belt of Bret Hart. Yeah, I'll just take that back. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All of this sort of stuff. He was always going to be the top
and
guy wherever he went.
And if I'm going to lose, I'm not losing clean. That was always Hogan's thing. He's like, if I'm going out, I'm rarely losing clean. I can only think of a few times. The most impressive time was when he put over Brock. I was like, holy shit. He actually put over Brock Lesnar. Like, he passed out to Lesnar's bear hug. I thought it was one of the coolest things Hogan had ever did. I'm like, because that's something you don't see. You don't ever see Hogan just dominated.
Well, as much as people say the Ultimate Warrior won cleanly against Hogan, people forget that if you watch that match again, Hogan actually had Warrior pinned.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, but the referee was out.
Yeah.
And so it was one of the insurance policies that Hogan had over Warrior.
But go YouTube Brock Lesnar versus Hogan in 2002. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Well, for me, against The Rock, not only once but twice, I genuinely thought the second time he was going to fight The Rock. I thought, especially with Rock being the heel, I thought, like Rock's going back to Hollywood. Hogan's still kind of part of the WWE. He's going to beat him, you know what I mean, and start fucking doing his poses and shit like that. And Rock Hogan 2 was never as good as Rock Hogan 1.
No, you're never going to recapture that magic.
Yeah, because the crowd, it wasn't the match. It was the crowd that made the match. You know what I mean? So, comment here from Daniel Vance. WWE McMahon served with subpoena by federal agents just We'll get to
Oh,
that.
okay. We might have
We'll,
something
we'll
to talk
get
about.
we'll get to that at the end of this discussion. That's
Yeah.
for sure. If you could maybe feed us a link at some point with the news article, I'll happily read it. But by the end of this, so let's let's move along. So we have Booker T winning the title,
Yep.
all of that. We have obviously Vince Russo cutting the most scathing promo
Mm-hmm.
on him. One second, mate.
Yep. Okay, so Hogan basically, calls into the Bubba the Love Sponge show and he's talking all sorts of shit. Like he's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm gonna buy out of my contract, blah, 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 blah. Do whatever the fuck I gotta do to get out. And essentially Hogan gets his way and they end up he ends up getting that Time Warner deal, that cushy Time Warner money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird how he was able to get out of his contract so easily. And did he still get paid even though he got out of his contract?
Yeah, he got paid. He got that Time Warner money. I think the only difference was I don't know, but the only difference was he might have gotten it all up front, whereas guys that sat out after the fact, they were getting a check every month. I think Hogan probably just said, fuck it, just buy me out. And I think they did. And one of the things I'm disappointed they didn't talk about, and maybe because this is not necessarily related to Bash of the Beach 2000, was how much money WCW lost in 2000. Would you like to take a guess at how much they lost?
$50 million.
Nope. But you were close.
More?
$62 million. In 1 year, they lost that much money.
Yeah. What's his face? Eric Bischoff was mentioning about how the budgets were getting cut for each particular show.
Yep.
WWE had new blood. They were they had new people at the top of the card, so to speak, whilst WCW was still wasting their time with people like Hogan and Nash and Hall obviously having his alcohol problems as well. It wasn't necessarily a good time for WCW, and they had all of this young blood ready to flourish, and they just never really pushed them. And by the time someone like Booker T did get pushed, it was too late.
It was already over. Yeah. And a lot of people say, like, was this WCW's death knell? I don't think so. I think WCW, I think they were over January 4th, 99, the night that Mick Foley won the title and Tony Schiavone spoiled it. I think that was the death knell for them. That was the beginning of the end.
Like push this whole NWO storyline, pushing it to death, like rehashing it, re-pushing it.
Yeah,
like, you can only go so far, with it. And they took their that was also something that didn't help. But WCW now is starting to go under, and Eric Bischoff is ready now to buy WCW.
Yep.
He's got a conglomerate of like rich people, and he speaks to somebody associated with Ted Turner. And Ted Turner, like, this is something somebody needs to explain to me. I wish maybe Shredder was here as well. Like, they're going to offer like 67. They were going to try to offer $67 million to buy WCW.
Yep.
And Turner turned it down and decided to do a fire sale instead.
Because
sold WCW for $2.5 million.
Here's why.
Okay,
but here's why. Because you could buy the rings, you could buy the copyright, you could buy the library, you could buy the trucks, you could do all this, but they're not going to give you the TV time. The TV time at the time was what the $67 million was for. But if you didn't have a place to air it, it's going to lower its value. So that's why Vince got it for as cheap as he got it. I mean, granted, $3 million ain't cheap, but
it's for Vince.
Yeah, for Vince.
I mean, we're talking chump change here.
Mm-hmm.
Like he spent $2.5 million on WCW and $3 million on all the stuff that's been taped.
Yep.
He got, in my opinion,
he got a sweet deal for that.
He got a sweet fucking deal.
Yep.
It was like WCW went into liquidation or something. It was absolutely crazy how much he was able to buy it for.
And I remember this famous quote from Ted Turner. Ted Turner said, "Hell, I've lost more money with the Atlanta Braves than I'll ever lose with wrestling." And then come to find out, here's another thing I'm disappointed they didn't talk about. I'm disappointed they didn't talk about how Ted Turner didn't have direct control of the operations anymore. Because I think Ted Turner did the same thing Vince did, where Ted had an affair in like his company, and in corporate world, you can't do that. You can't date your coworkers. Like in a lot of
But it was a lot
places,
easier back then. I mean,
yeah,
nowadays it's
it's frowned
people like
upon.
him. You can get away with it though, especially if you're the top guy.
Yep.
And people like Vince McMahon was getting away with it. But with social media now, it's very hard to cover your tracks.
Yep. And they even tell you too. They're like, don't date your coworkers.
Don't shit
Because
where you eat.
it's going to come out. It's going to come out. The news is going to get out, and it's a fireable offense now. That's the way it is in the corporate world. You can get fired for shit like that. And for Ted Turner, he lost a lot of direct control because of that, and because of the AOL Time Warner deal. And ultimately, what killed WCW was Jamie Kellner came in and he said, you know what? We're not going to be the wrestling station anymore. Despite the fact that it's our number one rated show, we don't care. And that's how Vince basically got WCW all together for about $5 million.
Of all the people, it's crazy though. Of all the people they sold it to their arch rival.
Mm-hmm.
And
ironically, the guy that owned it in the first place, because he owned that time slot, and then he eventually sold what was to become WCW. So Vince technically bought it twice.
It annoys me so much because Vince once again did what he was doing throughout the 80s, buying the territories.
Yep.
And he bought the biggest one in WCW. He bought D1 in WCW. And it all became just, this is like, it became the Vince McMahon show again. Like, it was one of the worst things to ever happen in wrestling, in my opinion, was the downfall of WCW, because there was less stuff on air.
No competition. What does it do to your marketplace? People leave.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what happened. That's actually one of my greatest regrets, is like, I wish I would have done what Ginger did, which was leave in 2004. That was the perfect time to go. And I wish I would have stopped watching after WrestleMania 20. Looking back, it's one of my greatest regrets as a fan. I wish I would have stopped.
I mean, look, for me, I kind of, even though there was TNA, which obviously shot itself in the foot, bringing back the very people that destroyed fucking WCW, in Hogan and Bischoff to a degree, but which always annoys me, because they were a fantastic alternative, through like the mid to late 2000s. They were a fantastic alternative, but they blew it. And AEW itself, I don't know what it is. It feels like WCW 2.0 at times.
Yeah.
So.
And here's a question I've got, because I know for us, we're not going to know the answer to this because we don't follow wrestling, but people are saying this is a boom period in wrestling right now, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd actually call it that. I mean, it's not as big as it's ever been. Maybe ring quality wise, it's better, but I don't know.
Boom, I wouldn't say necessarily boom, but I think the quality is a little. It has improved from what it was recently, because I just stopped watching wrestling because I just can't be asked to keep up with everything that's going on in wrestling.
Yeah, like, it's too much.
It's just too much, and sometimes I feel like the WWE doesn't want to listen to its fans, and if you don't want to listen, then I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
And I don't know who said it, but they said that WWE is like an audience of one, and that being Vince McMahon.
I've said that for years. I've said that for many, many years.
And that in itself also is an absolute turnoff. And so a lot of the shady policies as well within the WWE, whether it be all the cover-ups everything basically revolves around Vince in some capacity, whether it be wrestlers dying young or whatever. Yeah.
And on the AEW side, here's the deal. I hate to crush AEW fans' souls and spirits, but they're destined to be a hardcore promotion. That's all they're ever going to get. They're never going to get past that 800,000 to 1 million viewers, because wrestling it's not cool anymore. It's not. It really isn't. And I don't think it ever will be again. I really don't.
Yeah.
I think the approach you need to take is you need to take it away for a while. I know it won't happen, but you need to take it away. You need to make me miss it. You need to make it smaller before you can make it bigger. And I think that's the only way you can save the business now. But even then, I don't think you can.
Yeah, but the practices within the industry and these guys being worked to death, and you got the people at the top who are definitely exploiting things and not paying their talent as much as they can do,
Yep.
and drugs being a major part of things and all of that, and
Talent can't unionize. They don't get health care. They don't get
yeah.
Social Security. They don't get none of that.
Well, when I mention drugs, I do mean like the self-medicating and
Yep.
stuff like that. I mean,
Mhm.
you don't have a show like Dark Side of the Ring, which is like 4 seasons long, and predominantly a lot of the wrestlers have at some point wrestled under Vince McMahon in various ways, without knowing that Vince McMahon has a massive part to play in all of the skullduggery that's happened within the WWE.
Yep.
So it just it means I just can't support it anymore. I do watch wrestling as a voyeur, and I might watch the pay-per-view and stuff like that, and I
Yeah.
watch a little
SummerSlam.
snippet here and there
Yeah.
on YouTube.
SummerSlam. Here's how out of touch with it I am. I fucking forgot SummerSlam is this weekend. Legit. I didn't even know it
Yeah,
was happening. I'm like, SummerSlam is this fucking weekend? Damn. Usually we'd
and,
be all getting excited about it.
and yeah, for sure. Um, and yeah, I guess to a degree, like it's almost a double-edged sword with Roman Reigns because he's been so triumphant, beating everyone that now they have to elevate, one half of a tag team
Mm-hmm.
to main event at SummerSlam, against Roman Reigns,
Yep.
and he's just going to be, another pawn, so to
Another
speak,
body.
who's going to,
Yep.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
what?
Yep.
You know,
And the
Roy's going
end
to be
game is
Uso.
to have Cody. And the end game is to have Cody come back and win the Rumble again. And now it's going to be, we're going to finish the story. This time Cody finally wins. Oh, okay,
Oh yeah,
cool.
we'll just take two. And like, oh please,
Yep. Yeah. I
and he
don't
still has
care.
to fight people in between. They still have to somehow make credible storylines because as good as Roman Reigns' reign has been for as long as it has been, eventually that's going to dwindle. You know what I mean? And I think it's getting there. It's starting to get there.
It
It's
kind
just
of already is. It's like, yeah, you needed to end the bloodline story kind of 6 months sooner. I think they needed to wrap it up a few months sooner and give Cody the belt at this past year's WrestleMania is what they should have done. But what can you do?
Okay, got a comment here. Did you guys see Cody Rhodes documentary? It's why he went back. Why he went back to AEW will never be been not
I
being
did see it.
number
He
first.
said, yeah, Cody did say, like, I can't tell you why I left AEW. I'm not going to tell you why I left, but it was something personal, which means the EVPs over there don't know what the fuck they're doing. That's basically what that means. When you have the boys running the promotion, they're not going to know what the fuck they're doing.
Well,
Nope.
yeah, I mean, regardless of who is running the promotion, when you got too many people, too many cooks, whether it be Cody Rhodes just running it on his own, or Cody Rhodes running it with everyone else, if everyone else is running it together, you
Yep.
got too many cooks,
Mhm.
and then it ends up being a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
You need one person in charge.
And as I said before,
Yeah,
it's gonna AEW's destined for the hardcores. Like the reality of it is, because people like to say, "Where are the casuals at?" The casuals are gone, and you're not going to get them back. I just don't see the casual audience ever tuning into wrestling again. I think your casual audience is going to be playing Fortnite, going to be playing Call of Duty, going to be watching UFC, shit like that. The NBA,
watching
FIFA.
WWE.
Well, casuals don't really check out WWE as much anymore. Most of
I
those
just think that
people are gone.
WWE has always got, unfortunately, to a degree, it's just got the recognition and the longevity,
Yeah,
and that's always going to play in its favor, whatever anybody else does.
yeah.
So I mean, they've
But
been around for like 40 years.
it's never going to be as big as it was. That's what I've been trying to convey to people. I'm like, if your hope is for wrestling to surpass Attitude, let that shit go because it ain't
Yeah,
never going to be
yeah,
what it
I
was.
agree.
Yep.
I agree.
But
So
overall, for this episode, I really enjoyed it. I liked it.
yeah, me too. So how did everything conclude? So WWE gets sold to Vince. Sorry, WCW gets sold to Vince McMahon. You can see the glow in his face. He is so fucking happy, man.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I have bought my rival. I've genuinely, he put all their talent, starts burying all the fucking talent, majority of them.
I still have not forgiven. It's been over 20 years, and I still have not forgiven the burial of Booker T, and never will. I will never forgive them for that.
I never will. It was disgusting.
Yep.
You know, it's supremacy in a nutshell. It really was, and they 100% portrayed it in that, like the way Triple H covered, like the way he covered Booker T.
Yeah, he hits him with a pedigree, and it takes him 2.5 days to get over and make the cover.
Yeah. There's something very evil about all of that, you know.
If the storyline would have been, okay, Book, here's the deal. You came in from WCW. You were hot shit there. I'm the man here, and I'm going to beat your ass. I would have been like, oh, okay, cool. That's a better premise. Then it would have been like, oh, okay, it's Vince basically taking a piss on WCW, which was normal for its time. But no, you had to go and play you're black, and you're meant to sing and dance and entertain. You had to play that card. And that's why I've never forgiven them for it.
Yeah, like R-Truth. That's what, you know. They made him into a proper clown, even though the guy's got main event credibility.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, look at him. He looks fantastic. The guy's in his 50s.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, he still looks like he's in his fucking late 20s. Yeah. I mean, he's the definition of black don't crack.
Yep.
You know, and you got somebody who, like, I think to myself, you got so many guys who could be top tier guys, and you don't give them the elevation they deserve. So that you can make it easier for, main event matches to happen, where you got all these various different type of guys who've reached the top at some particular point, and not taking advantage of that with Booker T when you had the opportunity. You've blown it now, and then until you make him to this fucking king. King Booker was an interesting.
Thank God for King Booker. Yeah, thank God for King Booker.
It was interesting Booker, but it would be nice for Booker T to be Booker T.
Yep.
So, the 5-time Can You Dig It sucker Booker T.
Yep.
To be that top guy and not this parody of Booker T to a degree, and I'm happy that he, in a way, I'm kind of torn on it, because I'm still happy that he became a top guy and stuff like that.
I wish he was the WWE champion, though. That would be the only thing I would change about the King Booker character. I'm like, have him be the Monday Night Raw, like, top heel, and have him carry the WWE championship. That's what I would have changed.
They haven't seen NTW and Debatemania. NerdTube wankers. Okay. Fair enough. Vince Russo, he talks to you like you're a fucking idiot. This is just entertainment. Yeah, it's not supposed to be taken seriously.
That was hilarious too. Yeah, because he was like, "I fucking hate wrestling and everyone in it," and then he goes and turns around at the very end of the episode talking about, "Bro, this is just a job to me, bro. It's entertainment. It's not real." Jim Cornette was, I guarantee you, blowing a fucking gasket somewhere, ready to throw a fucking bitch fit.
I love the way they're all throwing shit at each other. I mean, this is why I'm really upset. I'm a bit gutted that Shredder's not with us, because we've got all these.
Yeah, we could have taken the piss out of this episode if he was here. This would be a 2-hour episode if he was here. We'd be talking
Bischoff,
so much shit.
Meltzer, Hogan.
Yep.
Oh my God! Like
if there was ever a day that we should have delayed it and said, "Okay, we got to get everyone here for this," we should have done that with this episode. Had I would have thought of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, in hindsight, I mean, all of these guys, they're all shitting on each other, all blaming each other. But look, they've all contributed to the downfall in some capacity.
Yep.
Like some. It's funny the way with Vince Russo did come up with some good ideas, but I think he was better off in the WWE than he was in WCW.
Yep, because at the time he had Vince McMahon to run his ideas through, and Vince was young, and he actually got with the people and had to listen to the people. Nowadays, we don't give a fuck because we got the bag, so fuck you.
Yeah,
that's how it is.
Yeah. That is the unfortunate thing about Vince McMahon. Once he realized that he didn't have to listen to the people anymore, he didn't.
Yep.
And then you have people like fucking JBL who are like, I mean, like, as as good as
good as he
good as
was, they threw him right in the WWE title picture. Like, here he is, and it's like, okay, fine.
not even have a chance to elevate himself, And
Yeah,
don't get
because
me wrong,
first of all, they
he
should
paid
have
his
put the United
dues.
States. Yeah, first of all, they should have put the United States title on him, and then it would have been like, oh, okay, you gave him the U.S. title, it's coming, and then if he wants to rule the second half of 2004 and become WWE champion, I got no problem with that because I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, you gave him the U.S. title, cool, and now we know that JBL is going to be a certified main eventer.
and Hall of Famer, and
Yep.
but don't get me wrong. I think he'll be a 2-time Hall of Famer, by the way, with the APA for sure.
APA.
Maybe 3-time with the Blackjacks, possibly. Who
Yep.
knows? He could be the first 3-timer. But nevertheless, he did pay his dues as a tag team wrestler, but he never really paid his dues as a singles wrestler. Like, you need to elevate yourself singly before you can get to the top. But
the one thing I could justify with JBL's main event run, and I know the sissified generation is going to cry about it, the time that he kicked out those illegals, that was what made JBL so fucking good at what he did. When he was like, you guys need to get your asses back to Mexico. And I'm like, that was some funny ass shit. I'm like, man, JBL, God, like that's probably the best thing about his heel run.
Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately, nowadays he'd be looked upon as a face by many people.
Yep.
If he did shit like that, So, anyways, so
Okay, so Vince McMahon,
he's gone. And sorry, go on.
Vince owns everything, and okay, so we got to read up on this whole Vince getting subpoenaed. What the fuck is this about?
Okay, I'm gonna get to that right now. Before we do, let's mark this episode. I'm gonna give this episode a solid 8 out of 10.
Yep, 8.
I thought so many things were covered in this episode. Some good documentary fodder regarding some of the that particular period.
Yep.
Following all these different promoters and bookers as well. Some news on obviously the Attitude Era and its early and its conception to a degree, the car crash television. Some really good stuff on Hogan, probably more stuff on Hogan than that we've ever had before when it came to any of the Dark Side documentaries.
Yep.
And obviously, as I said earlier, this collage of bookers and promoters and stuff like that, really getting to hear from all of them. We heard from Bischoff, Russo, and Meltzer, as well as people like Jeff Jarrett, who ended up creating his own promotion, funnily enough, not long after this in TNA. It was fascinating, absolutely fascinating. 8 out of 10.
Yeah, definitely an 8. The only thing that I would add to make it a 10 out of 10, a Booker T talking head and a Hogan talking head. That would have made this easily a 10 and one of the all-time great episodes. I would recommend, if you were a hardcore fan of 2000, which is arguably one of the best years in the business, go out of your way to watch this episode. You get all kind of info, and it's nice to revisit it for us old school fans, for those of us that love nostalgia and stuff like that, and the inner workings and things like that. So, yeah, this is the episode that you need to go out of your way to watch. It's the highlight of season 4 for me.
Yeah, for sure. Cousin Cheeto, dude, what happened to them? What happened to them as in who?
As in who?
Are we talking about the promoters? We mentioned Russo, Bischoff, and Meltzer. Well, they just spoke about Bash at the Beach, but they also kind of ripped on each other as well.
Yep.
There's no love lost between those guys.
Yeah, it was a he said bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And before I get onto the article, comment here from Ben Advance. For 20 years, Hogan used to pay 1/10 of 1% of his earnings to Marvel for the use of the name Hulk. Yeah, because that's how he got the name Hulk. Because
he had to go through Marvel to get it.
Yeah, because he actually I always wondered how he got the name Hulk Hogan, but it was because he was in a comic book alongside. About what happened to? I don't know what happened to them. Yeah, I mean, you know what's happened to Ginger. He's MMH, and regarding Shredder, I don't know, but I'm sure if he could come on, he would come on. So yeah, and unfortunately with Dixie, he couldn't find the stream to watch the episode, even though I was pumping him with links, but they were not all working.
I think what we might
Yeah,
need to do, we might need to do another retrospective, and then that'll be the time that we get everybody here, because then we can
yeah.
spend a lot more time on Bash at the Beach.
Yeah, definitely. I think we could do an end of the season discussion,
Yep.
talk about some of the episodes, and obviously
Hmm.
get into more detail on Bash of the Beach.
Yep.
All right, so let's read this article from Daniel Vance regarding Vince McMahon. Is there a title? WWE McMahon said was subpoenaed by federal agents. This only came out 4 hours ago. And look,
Mm.
there's a picture of McMahon without a fucking mustache. I mean, it's not up to date, is it? Um,
That ain't the Vince of today, I can tell you that. That's an old ass
yeah,
picture.
he's trying to look like Clark Gable nowadays. Anyway, federal law enforcement agents executed a search warrant and and served a federal grand jury subpoena to WWE Executive Chairman Vince McMahon last month, according to a regulatory filing. McMahon is also taking medical leave from the sports entertainment company following a recent spinal surgery. I mean, the guy should just retire. WWE said in the filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission that while government investigations into McMahon remain ongoing, no charges have been brought to them. The company said it had received voluntary compulsory legal demands for documents, including from federal law enforcement and regulatory agencies concerning the investigation and related subject matters. WWE has cooperated throughout and fully understands and respects the government's need for a complete process, the company said in a statement. The Wall Street Journal um, The Wall Street Journal has reported last year that WWE had investigated an alleged $3 million payment from Amman to a departing female employee following a consensual affair. Is that what you want to call it? WWE's investigation into a misconduct allegation was completed last year. In 2022, WWE formed a special committee to review allegations of misconduct against me. That's what he's saying. McMahon said in a statement. That review was concluded in November 2022, following an extensive investigation. Throughout this experience, I've always denied any intentional wrongdoing and continue to do so. I'm confident that the government investigation will be resolved without any findings or wrongdoings. The announcement of the surgery was made by CEO Nick Khan during the company's second quarter earnings call on Wednesday. Khan said McMahon had major spinal surgery nearly 2 weeks ago and is taking the leave in order to focus on his recovery. He did not specify the duration of the leave for the quarter. World Wrestling Entertainment Inc. earned $52 million or 67 cents per share, stripping out one-time cost earnings were 91 cents per share. That was 2 cents shy of what an analysis polled by Zach Investments Research expected. Revenue totaled $410.3 million, a quarterly record that toppled Wall Street's estimate of $398.5 million. Revenue from live events jumped 51% for the period ended June 30th. WWE, which has announced with Endeavor in April that it was combining with the UFC, said that it saw an increase in ticket sales for live events both domestically and overseas. It also reported an uptick in advertising and sponsorship revenue. WWE combination with UFC will result in a new publicly listed company called TKO Group Holdings. The deal is expected to close in the second half of the year, while the deal is with Endeavor continues to move forward as anticipated. WWE has continued to focus on its domestic media rights for its weekly television programs. WWE currently has SmackDown airing on Fox and Raw and NXT airing on USA networks. Aside from Fox and NBC Universal, which owns USA Network, there have been several media reports that other well-known companies are possibly interested in the media rights, including Disney and Amazon.
No.
As expected, there was a significant interest from the marketplace, and these conversations are progressing well, Khan said during the call. Viewership for SmackDown rose 26% in the 18 to 49 demographic during the quarter, while Raw view climbed 19%. NXT, which has increasingly started to incorporate some of its top name stars like Seth Rollins and Rhea Ripley onto the show, surged 49% in the 18 to 49 demographic. Now, don't get me wrong, I really wanted to know more about this.
It doesn't tell you shit.
It doesn't really tell you shit. Federal law enforcement agents executed a search warrant and served a federal grand jury subpoena to WWE
For
Executive
what?
Chairman Vince McMahon last month.
For what?
According to a regulatory filing, McMahon is also taking, and then it goes, McMahon is also taking leave from a sports entertainment company following a recent surgery.
Just retire already, you old fuck.
WWE said in the filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission that while the government investigations into McMahon remain ongoing, no charges have been. So what the hell's going on?
Yeah, what the fuck?
What the hell's
Like,
going
okay,
on?
did he shred some important paper documents? Did he fucking lie on his taxes? What the fuck?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, did you lie on your taxes? What the fuck did you do? Like, first of all, this means absolutely nothing. Vince ain't going nowhere until he dies. He's not leaving. That's pretty much my stance. I'm like,
Vince McMahon, like I said, him and Donald Trump are birds of a feather, and they also are Teflon as well. Teflon Vince. I mean, nothing seems to stick. And regardless of all these allegations thrown at him, would he ever end up going to jail or
just like Trump? I fucking doubt it. I'm not counting on it. I'm like, nope.
Yeah, look, I despise Donald Trump, but he's
not going to go. He's not going to go to jail. Yeah. I'm like, no,
he's on his third indictment. Like, okay, that's great. He's on his third indictment. The guy's already been convicted for sexually assaulting that lady not too long ago in the court. Nothing happened to him. Is he going to go to fucking jail or not? Because right now I'm not hearing him being put into fucking handcuffs, not seeing him put into handcuffs and going to fucking jail. And until I see that, you could have fucking indictments coming out of his fucking asshole. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't make it on, but thanks for the invite. You're welcome, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Vince ain't gonna go nowhere.
The hours and pay suck at gym. They make me type from box into a pitch black room. I monitor the only lights. God, that sounds torturous.
Damn, that sucks.
I mean, you're damn right, Cheetah. I'm glad Zam is reading this whole article that doesn't say shit.
Yeah, it's not telling you shit. It's like, oh, okay, so he got served. So Vince gets served all the time, and ain't shit happening.
Yeah, now we do know about Vince previous allegations, but let me read what Vance is saying. Sounds like it's like regarding allegations that McMahon had paid millions of dollars over the years to women after being accused of sexual misconduct. Yeah, he has.
Yeah, he has.
He went into hiding for a little while,
and he paid him off.
Then once he decided that enough time had passed,
he
decided to read it. Because I remember Jose, when the allegations first came out.
Yeah, we talked about that.
He brazenly went on to SmackDown.
I'm not fucking leaving. Ha ha ha.
And just he didn't do anything like too spectacular. He just kind of showing his face, look, here I am.
Yeah, hey bitches.
And like I'm going to introduce the next wrestler. I mean, what are you doing there, Vince? Other than proving that you're going to get away with it. That's what you're doing right now.
I think the board told him. They said, look, motherfucker, you will retire. Like, I'm convinced, like David Stern with Michael Jordan, when Jordan had those gambling rumors and allegations about him, David Stern probably said, all right, look, motherfucker, you will retire. You are the NBA. You will go away for a couple of years. I think that's what the board told Vince. The board told Vince, you will go away, motherfucker. You will have to go because we can't have you fucking shit up. And he left for a year, and then he's like, all right, well, I'll come back when things die down. And look where we are now. So just saying.
100% agree. And he didn't, and he did kind of get away with it. Like he did it in the sense that even though he was bragging on SmackDown and whatever, that he's still there. He's kind of showing his face regardless of all these allegations. Mm-hmm. Eventually, he did have to go into hiding, and then Triple H takes over, and everyone thinks finally we've got somebody who's more in more in tune with what's going on.
And then what happens is Vince starts to weasel his way back,
and then you could tell people are unhappy about that. Patience, Sam. We can dream that Trump will be locked up. Boomers. Yeah.
Why can't you get your hair cut now, Cheeto? Why can't you do that? Why can't you get your fucked up haircut cut now? How about that? Fix your haircut.
Oh, Linda McMahon was a member of Trump's cabinet.
Yes.
She was.
Yeah. Vince and Linda, I don't think they've been together for years because I think ever since she failed the second time, Vince told her, I ain't supporting you no more. We're going our separate ways. Peace. we're going to stay together in name only, and that's it. And
Well,
couples
the
do
whole
that shit
like
all the time.
PT era and shit like that was to make WWE not, especially with her with Linda McMahon, who will always be associated with the WWE, whether she likes it or not.
Yep.
That regardless of her going into Congress, they had to make the WWE more kid friendly.
Yep.
Because Linda McMahon wants to be a politician.
Yep.
Like, bitch, you're a fucking billionaire's wife. Just chill. Go on your fucking yacht. I mean, you can still have ambitions and do stuff, but don't fucking be involved in the industry where someone like you, a billionaire, who's going to be in as a politician, you're not going to be helping people like Jose and Cheeto and Daniel Vance and Jim. You're not going to be doing anything for them. You're going to be doing shit for your fucking husband. You know what I mean? And Donald Trump and people like that, billionaires.
Yep.
Yeah, he was gone for like 6 months.
Yeah, he was gone for 6 months, and then he came back.
Yeah.
Because he could. And he's like, you know what? Until death knocks at my door, I ain't going nowhere. And that's what's going to happen. Vince will still be running this shit for another 20 years.
Yep. And apparently you're a mean girl, whatever that means.
Yeah, get your hair cut.
All right. So next week, finally,
Marty Jannetty.
I almost wish this was probably the final episode because
I wish they would have done it in reverse.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if Marty Jannetty episode is going to be as interesting.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. I'm one of those that's like, I've never cared about Marty Jannetty. I never have, and I never will. I'm one of those people. I'm like, I don't care.
Look, regarding Dark Side, okay, one wrestler ended up being one of the, even though he might not necessarily be one of the most famous people in the world regarding wrestling, he's never going to be Rock or Stone Cold. But Shawn Michaels is definitely in the top 5, top 10, like most influential wrestlers in the WWE of all time.
Yep,
that goes without saying. And then you've got Marty Jannetty, who fuck knows what happened, and that in its own sense is its dark side. Mm-hmm. But really, it's more to do with other things. Obviously, the drugs played its part. And him pulling out a gun on somebody or something.
Yeah, and him saying he committed a murder or did something like that. Like, him saying that he did stupid shit. That's what they're going to be elaborating on next week. Is like, how fucking crazy are you? And that's pretty much what they're going to want to know.
Yeah, he never, Shawn always had ambitions of being a singles guy.
Yep,
and Marty didn't, and that was obviously Marty's downfall because he should have been just as ambitious as Shawn. But we'll find all of that out next week, I guess, when the final episode of season 4, which has been so far a terrible season.
Yeah,
there's too many episodes focused on individuals and not enough focused on promotions or, in this case, a particular pay-per-view.
Yeah, could we see like factions? Because that would be interesting if they did like more factions, like the Freebirds and the Von. I know they've done like the Freebirds and Von Erichs and all that kind of stuff. Can we get more into stuff like that, like the wild stories of like what factions and tag teams got into? Like one night we got fucked up and we destroyed a hotel room and we burned something. Shit like that is what I'd like to see more of.
Yeah, and the aftermath and all of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't mind seeing stuff like that. That December to Dismember, whatever it's called. I mean, that could be something there. I'm sure. I don't know. And I think there's some like certain things with an ECW that need to be brought up. Maybe I don't know. Maybe even Paul Heyman to a degree. I mean, he's shady as fuck. Mm-hmm. I think he deserves a Dark Side episode to a degree with him not paying his fucking his wrestlers and all of that.
He fired He fired his own mom. He did. Heyman fired his mother.
Well,
yep.
Gotta do what you gotta do, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like Gordon Ramsay do Kitchen Nightmares and stuff like that, where he goes into people's failing restaurants and try to make it better again. Yep. And sometimes it could be somebody really close to you, like a son or a mum or a father or a daughter who fucking things up and they need to go. You know what I mean? And that's when that's where that that's where sometimes you've got to separate family from business,
Yep.
So I can understand maybe to a degree if he did fire his mum, as long as he was still going to give his mum money.
Yeah.
Anyway, someone like Paul Heyman's fucking loaded now, isn't he? I heard he's like worth like $10 million.
Yeah, and those ECW guys will never see a dime of that. They're like, nope. Heyman's like, fuck y'all. I filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah, I mean he's got it made right now. He's one of the top managers of all time.
Yep.
And he's now he's probably one of the last of the old school.
Yep.
Who's still involved in wrestling.
And speaking of Heyman, okay, he was on ESPN recently, and Stephen A. Smith asked him, "Yeah, what about Bobby Heenan?" And he was like, "Fuck him, he's dead." And I'm like, Heenan would have loved that. I would have been like, Heenan would have popped for that. I know he would have. He would have smiled.
And you mentioned something about Jimmy Hart as well.
Yep.
I saw all of that. Yep. I saw that today for the first time, actually.
Yep. I laughed my ass off. I'm like,
because Roman Reigns doesn't know really what he needs to play right now, because he's on public TV, and he needs to put a good light for the WWE, but he's also a heel.
Yep. So have Heyman do the talking.
So you get Heyman just like, oh my God, Heyman.
Yep. Pull the string and you talk. All right.
Yeah. He's like I say, he's the last of that old school. Like there's not many people left of that kayfabe era who can still remember what it was like to be kayfabe.
Yep.
And Heyman is definitely, poorly, dangerously, all of that shit. He's still that guy to a degree. He can still do it. There's not, like I said, there's not many people left now. So
no.
If anybody. So yeah.
Yep.
All right. So good stuff. We've dragged this as long as we can. Fantastic episode. Best episode of season 4 right now. I'm not sure if next week's episode will top that, but we'll definitely talk about it next week. And if we can, we'll try to get the boys together to do a season review so we can discuss this episode again with some of the other NerdTube wankers for sure. All right, Jose, thank you very much for joining me, and to everyone else out there. Keep an eye on us on NerdTube. We've got so much stuff on our channel right now that you can look at, and there'll be more stuff coming shortly. Live reviews as well as recorded stuff as well. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. Take care.